Hey guys, good afternoon. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Welcome to IFYL. That's Inspirations for Your Life. In case you guys did not see my hat, I have the one without the lights today. You'll see it says here, believemeachieve.com. That's where you want to go for all my great, amazing, inspiring creations. You can also scan that QR code, and that'd be great as well. Welcome back, everyone. Whether you're with me right now at 2:43 p.m. in the afternoon, 2:43 a.m., 12 noon, 12 a.m., or maybe even 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. It doesn't really matter what time you decide to watch these videos or to take part in the audio podcasts. All right, guys, let's get right into the topic. I've got a great one. We're wrapping up a really amazing week talking about our body, right? So the topic for the whole week was understanding how our body relates and interacts with the environment. We're on series 3. Which means we're in the third year, and we're on show number 24. And if you are grueling at the end of your chair like I am to tell you what the topic is, I know you want to know what it is. It is, how do we perceive touch in our world? Touch, right? One of our senses. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is touch. So we have touch for lots of different things, like touch to pick up a phone, touch to pet a dog. We have touch to get a massage. We have touch to feel the differences between warm and cold. We have touch for pressure, right? If we don't know how to have the right amount of touch and we pick up an egg, what are we going to have? Well, we're going to have worse than an egg sandwich crushed in our palm of our hand. All right, guys, so let's get on to the next topic, which is haptics. Now, this became very popular when we talked about things like, video games and stuff like that. But what is haptics according to our good old friend Merriam-Webster? Well, I'm going to share with you what haptics is. Haptics. So haptics is a noun, and according to Merriam-Webster, it is the use of electronically or mechanically generated movement that a user experiences through the sense of touch as part of an interface, as on a gaming console or a smartphone. So, for example, if I was to take my phone right now and I was to tap twice, right, I could tap on something, I could swipe up. These are all touches. They're all things like how I'm doing things. I'm moving things around. So this is feeling touch. Now, on the phone, what I can do is I can hold down the little button here. And what happens is when that happens, ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very important to understand that your phone can make these different noises, okay? So the noise, though, is you feel it. So when I press this button and hold it, it actually will vibrate once. When I do it again, it'll vibrate a couple times. So hold it once, vibrates one. Hold it again, does 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, and then it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 fast haptics pulses. And so haptics are becoming very, very common. Haptics is also, in the medical world, a science concerned with the sense of touch. And so the study of touching behavior is called haptics. And this is brought to us by Bruce M. Rowe and Diane P. Levine. Again, let's learn more about haptics. All right. Haptics. Haptics allow us to get feedback from a device with this type of sense. Like, we can now get haptic technology, so we can feel the phone, we can feel the pulse. And so without me having to look at the screen, I can tell whether the phone is in a silent mode or whether it's actually in a audible mode, right? The iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max have that feature built in. So you can understand that haptics is very, very important. So let's talk a little more about tactile now. So what is tactile mean? What does tactile mean? And I'm going to go back to Merriam-Webster. Of course, you guys know that. And so tactile, according to Merriam-Webster, is a word that is an adjective, perceptible by touch, tangible, of or relating to or being the sense of touch. The boy enjoyed the tactile experience when he was in the ball pit and able to, squeeze the different bouncing balls, nerve bouncing balls. You get the idea, right? So tactile also means of or relating to or being the sense of touch. So thinking more about touch, all right, we got to understand more about it. So touch comes from something called our skin anatomy. Did you know that? Yes. Skin allows us to have touch. Now, it's one part of the touch equation. It's not a whole part, but there are skin receptors in uh, in there, and these receptors actually allow us to sense things. Our skin is the protective barrier between our internal body and our outside world, right? And so it's not only the body's largest sensory organ that we have, but it's also the largest organ, period, in the entire body. That's pretty amazing. So our skin's quote unquote sense of touch is what, let's say, filters back to our brain a plethora of information about the environment we're in. So just like we talked about, our ears, we talked about our eyes with perception, our ears being able to hear things, right? Whether they're close or are far away. We talked about taste, and they all give us senses about the environment. Well, our skin gives us a lot of information about the environment. The sense of touch lets us feel something physically. Could be pain, could be pleasure. It could be avoiding things. Like, how about going to a stove? And you've probably all done this before, right? And the stove is really hot. And you put your hand close on it, and it's like really warm. You quick pull your hand away. You know that it's hot, and you know that if you happen to get closer, you're going to burn your hand. You've probably done this before. You've touched something. Oh, that was really hot, right? But you'll never do that again, will you? So our skin anatomy is very, very important. It's composed of different layers. The epidermis is the layer at the very top. Comes from the Latin, it means upon or over. And the epidermis is the layer. And then the next one is the dermis. It's the second layer. So you have the epidermis, you have the dermis of the skin, and it's just made of dead skin cells. The epidermis is the top layer, and the dermis is made of the dead skin cells. The epidermis is waterproof, and it's a protective wrap for underlying skin layers and the rest of the body. It contains the melanin, which protects against the sun's harmful rays and also gives skin its vibrant color. When you're in the sun, melanin builds up to increase its protective properties, which also can cause the skin to darken. Now, the epidermis also contains the very sensitive cells called the touch receptors that give the brain a variety of information about what's in our environment, what's going on. Did I touch something that was sharp? Did I touch something that was cold, that was hot? The second layer, the dermis, contains our hair follicles, the sweat glands, sebaceous oil glands, and blood vessels, nerve endings, and a variety of touch receptors. Its primary function is to sustain the support of the epidermis by diffusing nutrients to it and replacing the skin cells that are shed off of the upper layer, which is the epidermis. And they slowly push their way towards the surface of the skin so they can replace the dead skin cells that are shed. Now, oil and sweat glands eliminate waste produced at the dermis level by opening their pores at the surface level of the epidermis and releasing the waste. All right. A lot of information in our skin. We have something called a somatosensory. What the heck is a somatosensory? Say that word a few times fast, right? So we're going to go over to my good friend Merriam-Webster. And according to Merriam-Webster, somatosensory is an adjective. Yeah, say that a few times fast. Somatosensory. Somatosensory. So it's somatosensory. Somatosensory. Yeah, say that fast a while. It's of or relating to or being sensory activity that has to do with origins, the special sense organs such as the eyes, the ears, and they convey information about the state of the body. Of course, our skin we're talking about now. And they relate to it either being one of two regions in the parietal lobe that receives process somatosensory stimuli. And so this is really, really cool, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of people don't realize what has to happen for this to go on in our body. The next thing I want to talk about, well, actually, before I jump over, I want to explain a little more about the somatosensory, because I think that's really important. So our sense of touch is controlled by a huge network of nerve endings, and these touch fibers, receptors, are known as the somatosensory system. The system is key to helping us understand whether we're feeling cold, whether we're feeling hot, whether it's smooth, whether it's rough, whether it's a pressure, whether it's a tickle, whether it's an itch, whether it's a pain, whether it's a vibration, or whether it's something else like a twist, right? Before we can get deeper into this, we have to understand that these are specialized receptors, and they're important to understand that they adapt to change in our stimuli around us, which is in our environment, which we already talked about the things that they do. Now, touch receptors are considered rapidly adapting, and they respond to a change in stimuli very, very quickly. However, rapidly adapting receptors can't sense the continuation and duration of a stimulus touching the skin. The next part I want to talk about, which is really important with our touch, is mechanoreceptors. Well, I'm going to go over to Merriam-Webster so you guys can know what the heck a mechanoreceptor is. I know you probably never heard these terms before, but a mechanoreceptor is a neural end organ, such as a tactile receptor that responds to mechanical stimuli, such as a change in pressure. They're good at perceiving sensations, as I said, pressure, vibrations, texture. And there are 4 known types of mechanoreceptors, which only function is to perceive indentions and vibrations of the skin. Okay. In fact, Merkel discs and Meissner corpusculus and Ruffini's corpusculus and Passien's corpusculus are what they're part of. It's the most sensitive mechanoreceptors we have in our body, and the Merkel discs are slowly adapting receptors, and the Meissner corpusculus are rapidly adapting receptors, so your skin can perceive both, which is really, really important. Your brain gets a ton of information about the texture, the object, your finger or fingertips or your hand is touching, because the ridges that make up your fingerprints are full of these sensitive mechanoreceptors. That's pretty cool. That blows me away. And deep in the dermis, not the epidermis, which is outside the dermis, and along the joints of your tendons and muscles like that, are the Ruffini corpuscles and the Passien corpuscles. And these are mechanoreceptors, and they can feel sensations such as vibrations traveling down bones, tendon, rotational movements of limbs, and stretching of skin. And they aid us in our ability to do physical activities such as walking and playing golf. So I guess we should say that this is a very key part to us being able to live our life and enjoy it, right? All right, so we're learning a lot about touch today, which is a very important part of our body. The next thing I want to talk about is thermoreceptors. Thermoreceptors. I know it sounds like something out of a sci-fi book, but it is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Thermoreceptors, according to Merriam-Webster, is a noun. It's a sensory end organ that is stimulated by heat or cold. Thus, the word thermo, right? Thermoreceptors. So, we know what they do. They are found in the dermis layer. That is the top layer. Actually, so excuse me. The dermis layer is the bottom layer. So you have the epidermis at the top, right? And then you have the dermis. So the dermis layer of the skin, that's where the thermoreceptors are. And there are 2 basic categories of thermoreceptors: hot and cold. That's all they do. They're able to tell whether you're touching something hot or cold. They can even tell if something's hot or cold before you even touch it, if you get close to it. Now, basically, they can tell cold sensations or hot sensations, and they are mostly stimulated when the surface of the skin is at 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and they are no longer stimulated when the surface of the skin drops below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is why your feet or your hands can go numb when they are submerged in icy water for a long period of time. Now, the hot receptors start to perceive sensations of extreme temperatures of the surface skin when it rises above 86 degrees Fahrenheit. They're mostly stimulated at 113 degrees Fahrenheit, but beyond 113 degrees Fahrenheit, pain receptors take over to avoid damage being done to the skin and underlying tissue. Thermoreceptors are found all over the body, but cold receptors are found in greater density than heat receptors. That's interesting. I guess because probably there's more damage to cold, right? We think about things like hypothermia and being outside in the cold. The highest concentration of thermoreceptors can be found, guess where, ladies and gentlemen? Right here in the face and the ears. That's why whenever you go outside to, enjoy the beautiful nature's cold weather, you're freezing. That's why it's important to have a hat on, right? And you have your everything all covered up well. So that's why your nose and your ears always get cold very fast, because they have the most amount of thermoreceptors in your body than the rest of your body on a chilly day. And your face always feels cold first, right? That's something that I think we never realized it, but now you know why that's happening. So let's talk about the pain receptors. Okay, so the scientific quote unquote term is a nociceptors. A nociceptor in Latin means injurious or hurt, which is a clue that these receptors detect pain or stimuli that can or does cause damage to the skin and other tissues of the body, such as if your finger got stuck in a mousetrap. Don't do that. But that's not pleasant. Or maybe you, let's say, got your hand or finger caught in a door jamb. That's not fun either. Or maybe your hand was on the floor and somebody stepped on it by accident, right? So there are over 3 million pain receptors throughout the body, found in our skin, our muscles, our bones, our blood vessels, and some organs. And the reason that we are designed to let's say, understand pain is because we want to protect our body. That's why. So they can detect pain that is caused by mechanical stimuli, such as a cut, a scrape, a thermal stimuli, such as a burn, a chemical stimuli, such as a poison from an insect sting. The receptors cause a feeling of a sharp pain to encourage you to quickly move your hand away from the harmful stimulus, like we've talked about with the stove. That's the most common one. And they also have receptors that cause a dull pain in the area that has been injured to encourage you to not use or touch that limb or body part until the damaged area has actually healed. So our body's pretty intelligent. What would we do without these different types of receptors in our body? Well, we'd probably be getting hurt a lot. I know this is really, really amazing, ladies and gentlemen. We have another type of receptor in the body that I want to talk about. You may or may not know about this receptor, but it's a really cool one. This receptor, ladies and gentlemen, is called you ready? This one is called a proprioceptor. What the heck is that? So proprius means one's own, and is used in the name of the receptor because they sense the position of the different parts of the body in relation to each other. So, for example, if I was to close my eyes, now whether you're watching me or whether you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, I'm closing my eyes right now. I'm taking my right hand and I'm lifting it just equal to my right ear. Okay? I'm going to open my eyes, the turn to my right. Hey, my hand's at the right ear, and it was my right hand. I'm going to close my eyes, put my hand down. I'm going to take my hand now, and I'm going to put my left hand just over my left ear. Open my eyes, and guess what? My hand is just over my ear. That's pretty magical, right? It even works with your feet. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but this is what equates to us having balance or not balance sometimes. It's part of the equation, because if we don't know where center is, if we don't know where, let's say, a tipping point is, we don't know how to avoid that. So what does it mean to touch? Well, touch is one of our 5 senses. We actually have 6, but one of our senses that allows us to get data from the world. That's pretty amazing, guys. It allows us to get data from the world so we can properly act or possibly interact. I mean, I think the possibilities right now, haptics in video games, that's like pretty amazing. They call it the video game sensory revolution. That's like amazing, right? The fact that you can feel things happening. You could be wearing a jacket, and maybe when somebody shoots you, you'll feel the haptic sensors go off just to your stomach, almost like somebody had shot you. If you got shot in the back, you'll feel the sensors in the back. Wherever it is, you're going to start to feel these sensations. And the thing that's a little strange is that it's like somebody's literally hitting you, but not really. you're getting this part of your body touched without you touching it. So that's a very, very interesting world. And we're going to see a lot more of this when we get into virtual reality and augmented reality. That's right, VR and AR. This is where we're going to see this stuff. So what is the role of haptics in the AR, VR world? Well, one thing is it's going to give us tactile feedback, right? By giving us vibrations, forces, or pressures through the haptic device outputs to let us not only engage in the game, but having the sense that it's very realistic. It's actually happening to us. So it's also going to give us what they call enhanced immersion. We've heard of immersion before. When we want to learn a language, we learn it through immersion. It's the best way to learn it. Now, it also gives us interactivity, and as I said, it gives us a sense of realism. It gives us a sense that we're in a spatial awareness place. Training and skill development is one of the great uses for it. Accessibility and inclusivity of everything in our body. Emotional and social engagement, safety and risk management, cross-modal perception. So haptics can enhance cross-modal perception by synchronizing haptic feedback with visual and auditory cues. That is really key. So that means that it can work with how my body is. Maybe I have a virtual reality suit on and I'm taking a step to my right. Well, the right sensor is going to know where it is in proportion to the left, so things can align up and they can feel real. Innovation and future possibilities. So haptics and augmented reality and virtual reality is an area of ongoing research and innovation. I'm sure you guys know this. The advances in haptic technologies, such as wearable haptic devices, haptic gloves, are expanding every single day. And there'll be more future developments that include more precise and, let's say, nuanced haptic feedback, allowing for even more realistic feedback. So what are the haptic, let's say, aware for games today, if we had to think about it? So we talked about the glove, right? There's haptic chairs. So to understand haptics, I'm going to go through a few examples. So one was the game, like the controller, right? And so getting a vibration on a game or on your phone is definitely a way to, let's say, captivate your attention. There's wearable devices, as we talked about. And haptics even have things like the haptic sneakers. That's right. So the haptic sneakers transmit vibrations that match whatever audio you're currently enjoying. That's pretty wild. So if you like haptic headphones and are looking to round out your haptic gear, well, you might want to take a look at the Haptics Drop Labs EP01 haptic shoes. Not to go down this path, but there are, let's say, adult toys for benefit of adult pleasures that are using haptic technology. I'm not going to go into that, but you can kind of use your mind to figure that out. And they're not just getting the sensations correct, they're getting temperatures correct. So things are very much real-like. And the majority relies on basically weighted things like rotating motors, innovative decisions of airflow and temperature. And so this is pretty amazing. They're even controlling things like, instead of being more drawn to vibration, some of them are using air pressure. So pretty amazing. And being able to create that world for you through haptic technology. Now, you might be asking me, hey, John, how much is a haptic sneaker? Well, haptic sneakers right now are not cheap. A pair of haptic sneakers, are you ready, guys? It's going to set you back just under $300. You heard me right. $299 for a music VR Bluetooth 360 haptic feedback, 6-hour battery life, magnetic charge connector, water resistant, black and white, MEP USB 11 sneaker. Wow. So again, the 360-degree haptic feedback from Drop Labs Haptic technology converts audio into vibrations that you can feel from your feet through your entire body, transforming you to be actually in the music. This is pretty amazing, guys. 6 hours though is the life, and they are waterproof, so I guess you won't have to worry about getting electrified or electrocuted or anything like that. So the whole concept now, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have to feel your experience. You're going to be going to the movie theaters soon, and you know what? It's going to be very similar to Disney, where you're actually going to be feeling the experience. I remember the first time I went to, I think it was a Disney World, and they had the, let's say, the bugs from a Bug's Life come right out of the seats, which was a little wacky. And then they had, when they talk about the bug, and then kind of telling the humans to go away, it sprayed like this terrible scent, like a skunk scent, but it wasn't really skunk. It was just it was mimicked to be that. So VR and haptic technology allows you to enhance your virtual reality experience. They have something called the haptic vest. It's called and guess who makes the haptic vest? Are you ready? It's called the Tactile X40, and it's made from our friends. You know who? It's made from our friends at Facebook Meta. Wow. That is just that's just like amazing. It's called BH Haptics. And it's actually called a gaming suit. So you put all your devices on, you put your helmet on, your vest on, your sleeves on, gloves on, shoes on, pants on, and you feel the sensations all over your body. I mean, that's just like wow. Some people have told me that when they do this, they literally get just as tired as they would without. So the question you might be asking, John, is how much is the tax suit X16? How much is the tax suit X16 by Meta? Well, the tax suit by X16, it's currently not available yet. It's coming, but it is not available yet. They have that. That's the X. That was the actually the X16, but they have actually the X40 that is out right now, and that one's going to set you back $529. No sense though. So there's 40 feedback points, which is why they call it the Haptic 40, and you can experience powerful things like uh, interlaced haptic things. So not just one thing can happen, but multiple things can happen in a certain sequence, which would make it seem like it's actually happening in real life. So a VR-ready haptic suit, the Tactic suit is the only haptic suit that has been integrated into a virtual reality set of games. So you can enjoy fully immersive VR games. And trust me, you might get just as tired as if you were playing the game in real life because it's going to cause the neurons and the dendrites in your bodies to fire, right? This is just really, really crazy, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, now you can go feel this. And just to tell you a little bit of how it works. So inside the vest, there are some rows. So if we took the vest apart, for example, there's basically, let's see, there's two parts in the front, two parts in the back. So each panel, if you will, is 4 panels. There are 10 haptic output devices in each panel. So you get 10, 20, 30, 40. That's pretty amazing. My question is, would you spend $529 for this? I don't know. Some people may not. I'm curious of your feedback on that. So we've learned a lot this week, ladies and gentlemen. We went through our eyes, we went through our ears, we went through our nose, we went through taste, we went through haptics. And so haptics is very similar to being learned from proprioception, which I talked about before. Is so when we feel or experience something at a certain point in time and space, we believe that what's happening is real. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, do you know who I am by now? Well, don't worry about it. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It has been an amazing privilege, pleasure, and honor to be with you this fantastic Saturday afternoon. Be sure to stay tuned for, yes, the J Moore Tech Talk Show, which will be coming up a little bit later on today. I hope you've enjoyed the master topic that we talked about this week, which is understanding how our body relates and interacts with the environment. And most importantly, today's topic, how we perceive touch in our world, Series 3, Show 24, Episode 7. I think what this really says to everyone is that we need to have an appreciation for how our body works and not take it for granted. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow with a brand new master topic. Be well, everyone.